to the entertaining Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as the New York Giants have now brought in their 7th new player from outside free agency. Of course, they've retained a few, but the New York Giants now have addressed the backup quarterback position. Also, I want to announce that at 9 o'clock, Talking Giants will be live. I'll Bad Dog on. We'll be talking New York Giants and definitely fielding some questions from you guys after we talk for about a half hour of what has transpired for the New York Giants in free agency. But this is something I've talked about pretty much the entire offseason. I said that I think the New York Giants have to go out there and get a veteran backup quarterback for Daniel Jones. Of course, we had Eli Manning last year, which Daniel Jones widely credited for a lot of his growth as a rookie quarterback. And when you have a young quarterback like Daniel Jones, I think it's imperative to bring in a guy that's been in the league, that has some time playing as a starter, to bring some knowledge and that could step in and that you could trust. You know, much like the Kansas City Chiefs were able to do for 2 games last year with Moore, or Bridgewater for 5 games with the Saints, to man the fort for a couple weeks if, God forbid, Daniel Jones goes down with an injury, which hopefully that does not take place. But McCoy's been around the league. I think he's been in the league now for 9 years out of Texas. I remember in college he was a good college quarterback. Hasn't amounted to much as a starter in the pros, but he's been a fairly successful backup, in his time in the pros, and he's played in the division for the last number of years with the Washington Redskins. So there's some familiarity there within the division. Would he have been my first choice? Probably not, but it seems as if the quarterback market was a little higher than I initially anticipated. McCoy last year was making $3 million. I'm not 100% sure on the contract specifics, other than that it's a 1-year deal, but I wouldn't expect him to be making much more than maybe 3.5, being that the market goes up. So we'll see what the contract is for, but I thought that this was a move that needed to be made. Alex Tanney, yes, he's been around the league, but he doesn't have much experience at all in terms of starting, and he's not a very good quarterback. At least McCoy is decent. I'm not saying he's good, you're not going to feel confident, and he's a guy that's played a lot more than a guy like Tanney that could bring some knowledge to Daniel Jones. They could have elected to go with the draft, but I didn't want to have to waste a late-round draft pick on a quarterback, being that we already have Daniel Jones. We know he's the guy. I've said time and time again, if they bring in a backup quarterback, I want somebody with experience, somebody that I feel fairly confident could step in and play fairly well, and somebody that's not going to cost that much. And that's exactly what Colt McCoy brings to the table for Daniel Jones, and he'll bring some knowledge about the sport. So I do like the pickup, and again, it's another short-term deal. Not that you expect a long-term deal with a backup quarterback, but it's another 1-year contract that they'll be able to flip next year and either decide to keep McCoy for another year or bring in another backup quarterback. But I think it's a good move. But let's jump into the specifics and the news that was reported by Mike Garofalo a little while ago. The Giants have agreed to terms with quarterback Colt McCoy, source says. He stays in the NFC East. And then finally, I just wanted to pull up his numbers for you guys, show you the amount of starts he's had. Yeah, obviously his record's not very good. Like I said, he's not an accomplished starter. He got to start early on in his career, 8 games for the Browns in his rookie year and 13 in his second year, which accounts for 21 of his 28 starts. And then, over the last couple of years, he hasn't started that much. He started 3 games in the last 2 years for the Washington Redskins. But a guy that's been around the league, has some starters experience, and he's played within the division. So I like the move. I didn't want Alex Tanney to be the backup going in. I think Colt McCoy brings a little more credibility and a guy with a little bit more experience that we'd feel a little bit more comfortable if Jones had to sit for a couple of weeks. I never expected Marcus Mariota. I laughed at people that said that. Mariota's going to want, an opportunity to start and make more money than what the Giants were willing to offer. We couldn't cut into our cap space at that rate. This was the type of guy that I thought we'd be getting if we addressed the quarterback position in free agency. I mentioned guys like Chase Daniels, Mike Glennon, guys like that. And Colt McCoy kind of fits that mold. Not quite as much success maybe as those guys, but pretty close. And a guy, guy that's experienced, that's played within the division. Nothing wrong here with this move. I would have rather addressed it in free agency, bringing in a guy with experience, a guy that is not going to be breathing down Daniel Jones' neck. He knows his role with this team. He's going to be the backup. He's here to mentor Daniel Jones. And now you don't have to worry about taking a quarterback in the draft because we clearly needed a backup quarterback. It's one of the most underrated positions in the sport. Is he this great quarterback? No, but he's good enough to be a backup and a guy that at least Daniel Jones could rely on, in terms of a guy that might be able to help him learn defenses, things like that, being that he's been in the league for as long as he has. So I like the move. Giants, we'll see if they've completed free agency. We've still, maybe they'll bring in a couple other small pieces, but they have addressed the backup quarterback position. Other positions they could potentially address, backup running back. Of course, they could do that in the draft. Maybe a really cheap wide receiver, maybe another offensive lineman. Who knows? I don't know what the Giants are going to do going forward. They obviously don't have a lot of cap space left, though, if any. So we'll see if they add another small piece. But yeah, Colt McCoy, New York Giant, 1 year, and we'll see on the contract. But I suspect it'll be around $3.5 to $4 million. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.